Love dragons in death, 'cause they are fun. Okay, so this chapter is Catelyn, but hold up, cause we gotta talk about some things. All right. So in the first couple of sentences, if you have a deductive mind and you're prone to figuring stuff out, you'll notice a few things. So we are going to discuss some architecture and the mating habits of the Starks. Okay, so first off, right on, we got her thinking about, well, like, you know, they're going at it, she's getting her boots knocked, and you know, Ned is over there and he's like, yeah, who's my queen, you know, like he's playing who's your queen. And then meanwhile, you don't realize it till after, but Catelyn is laying there thinking about, like, it's warm in here, this house is built on hot springs. All my baths are always really warm. I like it. It reminds me of Riverview, where I'm from. You know, like, she's thinking about plumbing and stuff. And it says, like when she gets up, like, she's aching, you know, but it's like a good ache and stuff. So we can infer that Ned Stark is probably packing. If not packing, then he's a vigorous lover. And it said he got off for like the 1,000th time, which, like, they've been married for like 15 years. So if you do the quick math, you know, like 1,000 times, 15 years, you know, that's like, yeah, that's like a date night. So like they got like sexy Sunday going on pretty much. and Ned probably isn't that good because she's thinking about plumbing, which, while suggestive, you know, if you're doing the job and they're thinking about plumbing, you got problems. Anyway, but they're very loving. Like, they're kind of goals a little bit, and this entire thing was more or less like a little bit of a spat between Ned and Catelyn, you know, because Ned gets up, he's a little bit troubled and stuff, and he knows that, like, she's overheating and stuff, so he goes to the windows to open them up. You know, he's like, I'm gonna bust these windows open and stuff. I don't know why it thinks a doorknob is a face, but that's okay. I got the tracking lock on now. We're good. Anyway, hold on. Let me move this because it is badly tread up. Okay. All right. Maybe it doesn't like the hair and the glasses, so we're gonna take off the glasses because we're done with the exposition. Now, you know, he opens windows, he's like airing it out, he's got to get the funk out of there because it's like medieval boot knocking, smells probably pretty bad. And you know, he's letting the cool air go in, and it's talking about our poor dude's like looking out the window because, you know, he's troubled, like King Bobby was putting it on him. And he turns and he's just like, I'm not doing it. All right, I'll turn it down. And Catelyn is actually concerned. She's like, no, you have to. And basically, like, Ned is saying, like, no, me and Bobby are boys, you know, like, we're boys, we're from the hood, like, and stuff. And Catelyn will be like, look, he's gonna think you're moving against him if you don't take it. And he's like, he loves me, you know, he'll yell, he'll get mad, like 2 weeks later we'll be cool, like it'll be fine. And she's like, no, you know your homie, you don't know the king, okay? Like, he needs you to accept this, otherwise he's gonna wonder why you didn't, and then he's gonna be like, that dude's plotting, right? So while they're like going through that and stuff, and she actually makes a couple good points, or whatever, like, there's a knock, right? And it's Desmond, who's, you know, I'm pretty sure he's Jory's son, but, like, one of the guards. And he's like, yo, who is it? You know? and you know, because he's just standing there buck ass, like he was sunning his mini Starks, his Storks, Ned Stork. Anyway, so he's sunning his Starks, and he's a Stark Nick Ned. Anyway, I'll stop. They're like, he's like, yo, Mr. Lewin out here. And he's like, I said, don't bother me. Like, can't you see I'm busy? You know, well, through the door. So he's like, I can't. You didn't open the door. But he's like, I said, don't bother me. And he's like, he says it's important. So, you know, Desmond's like, don't kill me. Maester got up on me, right? So, you know, like, he walks over, he throws on a robe, and Catelyn's up there, like, she got the furs, so she, like, you know, like tucking in, so, like, nobody sees nothing, whatever. And the Maester walks in, and he's like, what? And now, the Maester is, like, old, like, he's just a wad of gray and old, like, gray hair, gray everything, gray robes and stuff. They say, like, I guess he's got, like, real floofy robes that he keeps everything in. Like, he's got little, like arm pockets, and so he's constantly pulling stuff out. And even kids' toys, though, which is important to know, because it's kind of sweet. Like, he's like, oh, here's a pony, you know. But anyway, he's like, bet, dude, there's a box. It showed up, and that's like, and this Maester just, like, wastes his time, because he's like, there's a box, there's a lens. I was taking apart the box, there was a note, finally. And Ned's like, all right, give me the note, because Ned's like, and then as soon as, like, he pauses, and he's like, well, the note's not for you. And he's like, what? And he's like, it's for her. And like, it's getting info out of this guy. I was like, I thought his job was to, you know, anyway, like, maybe he's like, what was that, silent quitting or something? Anyway, like, as soon as he pulls out the note, Catelyn shook. She's like, secret note, you know, because it was hidden in a false bottom under, like, a lens, and they sent him like a observatory lens, like a really nice one from Mirror. So I guess, like, Mirror makes really good glass or something. And Ned's like, I don't care about this nerd stuff, you know what I mean? So she's shook. She's, like, shaking even. He notices, and he's like, what's wrong? And she's like, ooh, that's got bad vibes. And I'm noticing this about Catelyn, is, like, she's kind of superstitious, and she gets, like, vibes. You know what I mean? And stuff. So she's like, ooh, that's got bad vibes and stuff. And it's got Liza's symbol on it. You know, like, from the Airy, Liza, who ran away. Her sister. And she opens it, you know, because Ned's like, well, what's it say? And the Maester's like, okay, peace. And they're like, no. Like, stay there. And this will happen like 3 or 4 times, where he's like, yo, I shouldn't know this, I gotta go. And they're like, you staying. Also, there was no messenger or anything for the box, like, so whoever dropped the box off was in the party that came with King Bobby. So just, I noticed that very specifically. I was like, oh, okay, so she left somebody with this box to drop it off. We don't know who, but anyway, like, she reads it, and she's so shook. Like, when she hands it, like, she just drops the blanket she was holding. So she's like, titties out reading it. And then immediately, while they're, like, waiting, she just, like, springs out of bed naked. Just boom, stark naked. You know what I mean? Like, again, so, you know, she just goes to the fire, puts it in the kindling, puts, like, logs on top of it. Sorry, some weird stuff's going down. Anyway, puts logs on top of it and burns it. Just, it's gone. Like, that's her first thing. She don't even care that she's naked in front of the maester and stuff. No, you know, Ned's like, yo, the maester, like, you know, Lewin can see your goodies. And she's like, Lewin helped birth all your kids. Like, I'm not gonna pretend to be modest. And I think, like, because she's saying she's cold or whatever, but I think she was like partially in shock, and she was just, get rid of the evidence, deny, right? So Ned's like, what did it say? Because it was in a coded message, you know, and it was in a secret language only her and her sister knew. Like, they made it up when they were little. And she's like, well, and she makes a point to say, if we have the wit, like, you know, to listen, it's a warning, you know. So she believes this, you know what I mean? And he's like, what's it say? And it's like, John Aaron was murdered, you know. And I had a feeling, because, you know, like, he went from like think he'd never die to dying in 2 weeks. So I was sus. And he's like, well, who killed him? You know, because apparently everybody is just inching out information this entire chapter. And she's like, it says the Lannisters killed him, like Cersei, the actual queen, right? So that's why she burned it immediately, because, you know, her sister would die. And Ned is like, man, that ain't nothing but some grief, you know? And, like, tries to just downplay it, probably because he doesn't want to deal with, like, her sister potentially getting murdered for treason. And she's like, nah, man, this ain't grief. Because, and they don't mention it in the book, but I'm going to point something out, too. If the box was in the party of King Bobby, that means she set all this up before she left, you know, like, so she knew almost immediately, and that's why she ran, you know, like, she's like, they killing people, we out, you know. But, which makes a lot more sense why she wouldn't say goodbye or anything. But, you know, she's like, no, look, she set this up, she used the codes, she hid it in a gift. Like, there's no way she would take all of these steps and be like this methodical if she wasn't, like, sure, you know what I mean? And Ned's like, all right, maybe, you know, because, and then immediately, like, she jumps on it and she's like, so you have to take that job, like, you have to get down there and figure out who killed him, you know? And he was not thinking the same thing. Like, he's just like, hell no, I need to stay the hell away from all this shadiness and stay here where I know people have sense, you know? And she's like, who's gonna solve it then? And the maester, he chimes in and he's like, I'm just saying, like, a hand of the king has a lot of power. Like, you know, you don't really have it here, but over there, you know, like, you might be able to protect some people, you might be able to find some stuff out, you might be able to punish some people if you did find some stuff out, to the point where he's like, he just has one of those moments where he, like, face palms, you know, he's like, and, like, you can tell he's just giving up his home, and it's rough. And he's like, you're right, all right, you're right. And then he hits her with the 1-2 punch, because he's like, but you gotta stay here. And she, like, and instantly she's like, what did I do? You know? And he's like, no, like, a Stark has to be in Winterfell, like, you know what I mean? And so you gotta govern while I'm not here, and you gotta raise up Robb, because Robb's getting to be that age, hopefully he can take over while I'm busy and take care of Winterfell, you know, because, like, he's the Lord of Winterfell, like, you know, he cares. And she's like, no, you know, because she knows it's coming. And she's like, what about my kids, you know? And Ned's like, look, I know little Ricky is only like 3, so I think like it should be like you, Rob, and little Ricky. And she's like, but what about the rest of them? And he's like, well, I'm thinking they're coming with me, you know? And she's like, oh, no, you know? And, but like, she's thinking about it, and she's like, okay, like Sansa, you know, being married to Joffrey, that'll be powerful. Like, they'll be making, you know, kings and stuff eventually. And like, she pretty fancy, like, she'll probably do well. And then Arya is the exact opposite, apparently. Like, we don't know much about Arya, but like, both of them are just like, yeah, she needs refining. You know, talking about, because Ned's like, you know, that girl needs to experience some courts so we can marry her off. And she's like, yeah, she's a little rough. You know, and that's it. But then, playing favorites, she like, but Bran, man, like, you can't, you gotta give me Bran, you know? And he's like, look, Bran is, I need him. You know, like, he's real likable. He laughs, everything. You know, like, I heard word, like, Joffrey and Rob, they're like, they don't like each other. So I need Bran to come with me so he can be around the princes and smooth stuff over. And you know what I mean? Like, because he's good. That's going to be king, you know? And she's like, damn. And she's like, okay, well, don't let him climb up all them big walls, you know, because apparently Bran really likes to climb a whole lot. So that's it. And then the maester just, I don't know, poking the badger. He's like, what about Jon, right? And instantly, Catelyn just, ooh, you know? Because apparently, Catelyn is hardcore team fuck Jon, right? And she's like, you gotta take him. You know, like, fuck Jon. You gotta take him. And Ned's like, what? I can't take him. Like, I can't take him. You know, he's a bastard. Like, he can't be in a court. And she's like, fuck Jon. You know? And, like, every time he says something, he's like, but him and Rob are friends. Fuck Jon. You know? And then she goes in her head, you know, after like a litany of fuck Johns, and you kind of figure out why, you know, because a little bit earlier she had mentioned his brother, you know, because they were talking about Sansa and Joffrey getting married and stuff, and she's like, well, I got a promise to your brother when when I was 12, and see, I guess Ned was second born, and he had an older brother who was supposed to be everything Stark, and he was raised to rule, and he was even promised Catelyn and all of that, and then he got killed, you know? So Ned has been in his brother's shadow literally the entire time. Like, he was the last minute replacement. So he's like, why are you bringing up my brother again? And, you know, and like, I guess this is the equivalent, because like in the first year when he's off on the campaign and stuff, like, and Catelyn's pretty decisively cool about stuff, you know, like, it was a different time. She's like, yo, dude, he's got needs. He's going to make some kids or whatever. That's fine, right? But what happened was when he was out, there was a big battle, and I guess there's this cold killer dude, and his name was Arthur Dayne, the Sword of Morning. Right, and he was one of the Mad King, like Aerys. He was one of his king's guards, but he was the deadliest king's guard. Like, he was just, you know. So like, while you know, King Bobby is out there with the Warhammer smashing in you know, Daenerys' older brother and stuff, like, Ned Stark's out here like just with the sword play, right? And he takes him out. Like, Arthur Dayne's gone. And he's such a good swordsman. Arthur Dayne is like and it's important to note, she heard this through like a game of operator, you know, like Ned's dudes were talking and then her maids overheard them, and then, you know, but as far as she knows, like, he took his sword all the way down to this castle called Falling Star, and it was by the Summer Sea, I'm pretty sure, and he was going to give the sword back to his sister. Now, his sister, according to the soldiers and stuff, was banging. Like, she was tall, she was fair, she had like these violet eyes. Her name was Ashara Dane. And as far as she knows, Ashara Dane is Jon's mom. You know, like, because unlike all the other bastards she would have been cool with, Ned Stark, I guess he's just built different or something. Like, well, because he acts kind of sus about it. But he took him right to Winterfell. You know, his bastard. And was like, this is my son. Like, recognized him as his bastard son. To the point where, when the war was over, Catelyn went directly, like, to Winterfell, and Jon was already there with his wet nurse, and she's like, why is there a baby here? And he's like, that's my son. You know, like, just end of discussion, right? And she had spent years and years trying to convince Ned to send Jon away, and he's just like, nah, ain't happening. Nah. You know, like, the entire time. He's just not having it. And it's important to note, the one time Ned ever actually scared her, you know, she was playing that operator, and she learned that name, Ashara Dane. So she, like, gets up in his ear and asks him to his face, and she's like, what's up with Ashara Dane, though? You know, like, is that who made Jon? And Ned just goes cold. He's like, never ask about Jon. Never. And then he pushes her, and he's like, who told you the name Ashara Dane? Like, and you know, she's shook to the point where she says whoever, and it doesn't say what Ned did or what Ned said, but no one ever mentions Ashara Dane again, like, in Winterfell. Like, he deads it completely. And so she's just been stuck with that in her head. And I guess Jon looks more northern and more like, you know, like, more like his kid than her kids do. And so it's just a constant thing. Like, every time she sees him, she's just like, fuck Jon. You know? So he's like, you should, no, Jon should stay. And she's like, fuck Jon. You know, like, just no compromise. It's just not happening. And this maester is like, well, Jon was talking about trying to patch him with the goth kids up at the wall, the watch, right? And they explain the watch a little more. I guess you have to conscript into the Night's Watch. But once you're there, you are stuck. Like, you're chased. That's your only job. It's a massive sacrifice. And if you try to leave, they will cut your head off. Okay? So that's what we know about the Watch. Like, that's why they're goth kids. You know, like, they gave up everything. And then on top of that, like, you know, Ned's like, and Catelyn's sitting there like, I love this one. You know, talking about the maester, because she's like, that's perfect. He can't make competing errors. You know, he can't, like, he'll be out my face, and so he'll be gone. Like, it solves all the problems, right? So, like, you know, Ned's over there, and Ned still being surprisingly good father. Like, the one thing that kind of gets him is he's like, Jon could actually raise pretty high in the Watch as a bastard, because apparently that stuff don't matter. Like whatever you were before the Watch, you are the Watch now. Like, that's your new family. They don't care. It's like the French Foreign Legion. Like, you give up what you were, you become the Watch. Right? As far as I'm understanding it. But in that, everyone's equal. So, like, it doesn't matter if you're a bastard. You could end up being a commander in the Watch or whatever. Anyway, although that, I mean, they say that, but, like, that one, like, little rich lordling kid, you know what I mean? Like, he was a commander, like, first time out. So, there might still be a little bit there. Anyway, right? You know, Catelyn's like, I'm never gonna see my husband again and stuff. And he's like, you know, like, kind of pacifying it and stuff. He's like, I'll visit. You know, in his tone or whatever. But, you know, he's like, crap, I'm gonna have to go down there. I'm gonna have to take these kids. And I'm blinking. Give me like 2 seconds. Okay, so they were talking about Jon, him having to go. Okay, the Maester is like, yo, so when are you gonna tell Jon? Because he basically gets resigned. Because he's like, man, he's so young though. Like, if he was a man, I would take this request in a second. But he's so little, you know what I mean? And like, that's a hard choice. And like, the Maester is like, these are hard times. And Catelyn's just sitting here like, you know, please. Anyway, but he relents and he's like, all right, crap. And then they're like, when are we gonna tell Jon? And Ned is even like, yo, just give him the rest of the summer. Like, there's only a few days left and his childhood's over when we tell him. So just let him be a kid for a minute. You know, and they kind of leave it on that a little bit, you know, like, I feel like I'm leaving something out, but basically they had to split the kids up. They think Jon Arryn definitely got murdered. He's gonna have to accept the hand. He's going down there. She's raising Robb. She's keeping little Ricky. Sansa, Arya, not Jon. Jon's going to the Watch, I guess. And the other one, man, oh, I feel so bad. No, who is it? Is Sansa, Arya, and Bran. I forgot Bran. Little Bran. The most lovable one. Anyway, Bran will be going with him down there, and then he's low-key gonna be like searching for like proof or, you know, who killed Jon Arryn and stuff, and have to kind of ingratiate himself a little bit with these Lannisters and like try to, you know, hook up Sansa and Joffrey, the betrothed, and whatnot, just so the king doesn't flip out and murder him and his family and think they're traitors, or the Lannisters don't like start offing people. As far as I understand it, if the Maester's to be believed, but I don't think. He actually even says to the Maester, he's like, look, man, you're like family, help raise my son, make him a good leader. You know, so I get the feeling like that Maester's been around for a long time and like they know him. So that's kind of chapter 6. Catelyn, I pictured her with red hair. I don't know. So this might be a thing, like going forward. And that's where we're at. So this is Tory Torrential. Hopefully this was amusing. I love you. Thanks for watching my show. Like and subscribe.